Let's talk about the crown of life. This is a crown or a victor's wreath that we as Christians can actually earn by enduring a temptation. And we see this over in James chapter 1 and verse 12, where it says, "Happy is the man who endures a temptation, because having come to be tested for approval, he will receive the victor's wreath of life, which he promised to all those loving him." See, temptations are not something that's from God. God doesn't put us into a situation where he solicits us to do something that lacks in character. Yes, he will allow testing to come upon us, but that testing is looking at the approval aspect, not trying to trip us up. The things that are trying to trip us up, well, those don't come from God. They come from one of our three enemies, whether it's Satan, the sin nature, or the world system. Those desires are going to come in, and their intent, of course, is to get us to do something that lacks in character. That is, against who we are in Christ. We are tempted when we are drawn out by our own lusts and enticed. You see, one of our enemies is going to present a desire to us that is enticing to us, and it's going to draw us out of our safe place, get us to accept that desire as our own. And then when we determine to do that, we're actually in a state of unrighteousness. We haven't sinned yet because sin has to come out of us. But of course, we are going to sin if we continue down the path we're going. What we should be doing is taking the way of escape. God has provided us everything we need to overcome a temptation. We need to actually apply what he has said, not try to govern or overcome them by our own set of rules. See, when it comes to the sin nature, know, reckon, and yield. This is over in Romans chapter 6. Know that you have died with Christ and you have been raised to walk in newness of life. Count that to be true, and then start yielding your members to righteousness rather than unrighteousness. When it comes to Satan, put on the armor of God and put on the whole armor. And then once you've put it on, stand firm and he will flee. When it comes to the world system, well, we need to recognize the fact that we have been crucified to the world system. That is, we're dead to it. We're not part of it. We live in it, but we don't have to be overcome by it. We use it, but we certainly should not abuse it. Temptations are not an easy thing to deal with. And we see that there's recognition of that because by enduring a temptation, God is actually going to give us a victor's wreath that shows that we are victorious ones. Now, of course, when we overcome one temptation, that should give us courage to continue to overcome more temptations. And the more temptations we overcome, the less we see sin in our life, and the more we see righteousness. The less we seek to walk our own path, and the more we start to follow God, start to walk by the Spirit, start to seek his desires, and start to live a life that truly does glorify God. One that ends up to where we can be happy, because remember, happy is the man that endures a temptation. We're happy because we were not overcome by it. So what we need to do as Christians is use what God has provided for us to overcome a temptation, because it really is of such value that God will actually present us with a victor's wreath, because we stood on his word and not on ours.